Saudi Arabia, coming out of their mosque after preparations for the Ashura commemoration, were gunned down by masked fanatic terrorists. Saudi Arabia blamed Al-Qaeda. Well, that's like me blaming my left hand for punching someone in the face. It wasn't my left hand that punched them in the face. It was me who punched them in the face. Saudi Arabia is Al-Qaeda. Saudi Arabia created Al-Qaeda, paid for Al-Qaeda, paid for their weapons, sent them to Afghanistan in the 1980s. Of course, they had a different name then. Then they were so-called Mujahideen. But it was Osama bin Laden and his lieutenants who mutated from those Afghan days into the people who destroyed the Twin Towers in New York, murdering more than 3,000 people. It was Al-Qaeda that has committed some of the most foul atrocities anywhere in the world. Saudi Arabia is Al-Qaeda, created Al-Qaeda, paid for Al-Qaeda, and continues to pay for Al-Qaeda. They can't wash their hands of a crime committed in their own country by blaming it on Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is them, is an alter ego of them. The mindset of Al-Qaeda and similar groupings like ISIS and others is emanating daily, hourly, out of Saudi Arabia. They have exported this mindset, this takfiri fanaticism, all over the world. And when it goes wrong, when an atrocity is committed, they want to point over there and say it was Al-Qaeda. Well, that just doesn't wash, at least not for me. So I'm asking you, how much do you blame Saudi Arabia for global takfirism? And if I put a comma in there, what's going to be done about it? After all, Iraq was invaded and occupied in part because it was being linked to international terrorism when it had no connection whatsoever to international terrorism. Had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. Quite the contrary. It had nothing to do with any international terrorism. But it was in part invaded and occupied on that charge. But Saudi Arabia is deeply involved in international terrorism. Not only is it not being attacked, invaded, occupied, it is a treasured friend, our best friend in the Arab Middle East. Let's take some calls. Arshad is in India on the Saudi Arabian